So we have Kellon's presentation, Teaching and Mentoring Others. Even if you think you're unqualified or don't know anything about it, that's actually an awesome title. I really love that, Kellon. So we're right up on the top of the hour. Kellon, I'll just kick it over to you and proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you for anybody who's watching. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited and terribly nervous to give this talk. It's my first time giving a talk. I want to talk about something that I'm passionate about and really care about, and it's teaching and mentoring people, because I wouldn't be where I am today without the teachers and mentors in my life, whether that be information security related or just general life lessons. And this being virtual is going to be kind of fun and interesting. Let's get started. So just a bit about me. My name's Kellon Benson. If you do the Twitters, that's my handle. I'm currently a threat hunter at Microsoft. I enjoy tabletops and video games and love learning. IPAs are good too. If we were at the con, would love to grab an IPA, but we can do it virtually. And I'm very typo prone. So if you go to my Twitter, you will see that is very true. So that's a bit about me. Do you know anything about information security? I'm watching chat as I do this. So if you have answers, feel free to throw them in there and I'll engage with you guys. I would assume since we're all here at Wild West Hacking Fest, some of us know a thing about information security. Who would say that they probably know things outside information security that have helped them get to where they are right now? Just based on the previous presentation, it seems like sports and information security are very relatable. Who would have thought? I think that everybody is where they are today because they've had someone in their life or someone's who have taught them, encouraged them, or challenged them in some way. That's honestly why I'm here right now giving a talk. I had someone say to me, you should do that. You did great talking at Whose Slide Is It Anyways the other night. And I was like, yeah, that was crazy. I don't think that makes me capable of giving a talk about things. But here I am. I want to go into a bit of my story and tell you about where I came from and some of the people who really poured into me and really helped me become who I am. I grew up in rural Washington State, where my high school computer class was typing. I then spent my time in that computer class teaching myself other things like Photoshop and other things that were not completely relevant to my class. May have gotten in trouble. I also managed to fail high school algebra and a few other classes. I really thought school was dumb, and I really just needed to get my high school degree because the plan was to skip out on college and skip the American dream so I could be a freelance graphic artist photographer. I was gonna, live in a studio apartment with 6 other strangers while we worked at the same coffee shop to pursue our artistic dreams. That clearly happened as I'm sitting here, quite the opposite. I graduated high school, went to college, and I bounced between liberal arts degrees ranging from communications, religious studies, English, until I decided that I would get a degree in IT. My oldest brother suggested that I should get a degree in IT. He told me, hey, you're a nerd. You'd be good at that professionally. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was an option. So I switched to an IT degree. And in the midst of earning my IT degree, I got a job at the help desk at my college and slowly moved forward into an information security analyst role, which was pretty crazy. I did not think I was qualified in the slightest. So I was going to school, working full-time. I got married, bought a house, and, I did everything that I said I wasn't going to do in high school. High school me would probably be very disappointed in me. Anyways, during my time in college, I had some pretty great people who poured into me. I had professors. There were some guest speakers I connected with, and I just had really good peers who we just built on each other. We ended up building a cybersecurity club because we were like, hey, we want to know more and do more and learn from everybody else. So when I moved into the working world of a security analyst, I got the privilege of working alongside of the people who literally laid the groundwork for the internet at the university I was at. Like, they laid the cable and they plugged those cables in and brought internet to the university. So those are the people I got to learn from as a security analyst. Whenever I had a question, no matter how simple, they would take time to answer that question and explain it in great detail. I would become lost at some point and just sit there and nod and smile and try to take in what was happening. They were just infrastructure and networking wizards, as I like to call them. They hated that because they were very humble individuals. About 3 months into this brand new security analyst role, I was asked by a professor to come and guest speak at the cybersecurity club in her classes about my life as a security analyst. And I was like, but why? I'm brand new. I don't know anything. I am really unsure of why you want me to come into your class and talk about what it's like to be a security analyst. I had no idea what I was doing in my job. I was still training, learning. So I said yes, of course, as you do. I talked about the things that I was just doing on a daily basis, how I was learning the things I was learning. I thought they were completely uninterested and that it was horrible. So I'm going to fast forward about 3 weeks ago to when I started my job as a threat hunter. And I walk into my brand new job and I meet my supervisor. We shake hands. He was a student in that class that I guest spoke in. That's crazy to me. And he told me that he remembered that talk I gave that day and that he found it helpful. That's such a cool feeling. And as I was getting introduced to the rest of the team at this new job, another person walked in and they introduced themselves and they said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you spoke in a class I was in a few years ago, and I took the things you talked about home. I tried them, I applied them, I learned from them, and now I'm here. That person is a full-time threat intelligence person at Microsoft. Holy cow, that's crazy. Like, I am so humbled by that, just blown away. I'm going to travel back in time a little bit farther to when I finally bit the bullet and decided that I was going to take pen testing with Callie and earn my OSCP after years of trying to be ready. I put together a blog that I was going to track my progress, talk about my failures, successes, mostly for my benefit of like, okay, what did I learn? And it turned into people actually engaging with this, talking on these posts and sharing information. It became very helpful, surprisingly. I put together this, what I would consider very unpolished, mediocre blog with some GIFs in it, because GIFs are the only way to communicate on the internet. Just skip over the words, get to the moving pictures, please. It turned out to be helpful for some people, which I think is amazing and crazy, honestly. And then I failed my OSCP, as one does on their first try. And I put out a joke tweet, as you can see on my slides. I did not pass on my first try. AMA, ask me anything. Complete joke. It was really just a poke fun at myself. You know, I have a self-deprecating sense of humor. It helps me cope with my failures. But it actually turned into a conversation on Twitter where people were engaging, sharing their experiences, being encouraging, saying, hey, like, you'll get it next time. People sharing their stories and just a general advice for taking that exam, which is really cool. A joke turned into something that actually was helping people. And I really wouldn't be doing these things, learning the things I learned, doing what I've done without the help of the people who have challenged me to go ahead and do these things. Like being here talking to all of you, like guest speaking in a class, like posting a blog about my successes and failures. It took people in my life pushing me to do those things and encouraging me through that and offering advice about how to do that. People like my mentors, my coworkers, professors, a throwback to a high school teacher who said something that has stuck with me to this day, and I will never forget it. You have got to learn to learn. Man, I hated high school, but I learned so many things just from that phrase. And if you take nothing away from this talk or the words that I'm saying, just grab that and run with it. People on the internet turned into people encouraging me, offering up mentorship type advice to myself and other people. I've learned from students at the university I was working at. I'd run into somebody in the hall and they'd be like, oh, you're a security analyst here. And we'd get talking and they would start talking about some vulnerability or CVE they were reading about, and I would learn about something new and interesting from them. Also, my mom, shout out to my mom. She taught me so many things. Absolutely would not be where I am today without my mother, who through her words and actions just taught me to keep pushing even when everything seems like it's falling apart and it's garbage, because It'll get better and you can do the thing. So what about you? What about all you hanging out in chat? Do you know things? You do know things. And you can't disagree with me right now because you can't type as fast as I'm talking and telling you you know things. You have the ability to teach people those things you know. You have a very unique perspective on the things you know, whether that is a technical thing or it's just a life lesson. You have your words to share that. And the feeling you get when you have shared the things you know with someone and later you see them doing something really wicked cool is incredible. Speaking from experience, working alongside people and below people who I guess spoke in a class. That's insane to me. I'm baffled. I'm speechless for how that makes me feel. Your voice is important. And I say that because I can't tell you how many blogs, white papers, videos, conversations it took me to finally understand stack-based buffer overflow. And finally, I found something that just made it click for me. It was explained differently. The way that it was done just made sense. And you could create or say that thing. Also, can you encourage somebody? Absolutely. You have the ability to say, you can do it. You can do the thing. You're awesome. You might have a friend who's trying to get an information security or just getting a job in general. And they're like, I don't know if I should apply. I don't know if I have the right skill set. And you are the person who could stand in and be like, hey, you can apply. You should apply. You have these skills. For example B, maybe you are doing a guest speaking or doing a lab or something like that. And you see someone who looks discouraged and frustrated and just is uninterested in whatever it is. You could take the time to step out and talk to that person and help them out. Tell a story about when you had the same kind of experience where you were staring at a script you were trying to run and it just kept failing and failing and failing, and it turned out you were just missing a space. That's never happened to me. Or, some kind of small syntax error. I'm sure we've all got those stories. You can challenge somebody. You can push somebody to try something that's outside their comfort zone. Like I am here today. I wouldn't be, like I've said so many times, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have people in my life pushing me to try this thing. A mentor of mine, they thought that I should just give it a try. I was like, no, I'm not good at that. But they said, no, you can be and you will be. And you have the ability to do that too with people you work alongside of. And finally, this is so important. You can learn from the people that you are teaching, encouraging, and challenging. Stay humble in these situations. Work to learn from those people. Like I said, I've learned from just students who's taught me in the hall at the university I was at. I learn from my coworkers all the time. Random people on the internet. It just takes a attitude of humility and being teachable and realizing that if you are having some type of teaching, mentoring relationship with somebody, that person can teach you things. I had to include this tweet because it said everything that I've been trying to say in this presentation so well. None of us need permission or certs or CVEs or a degree to learn from others and share our skills and knowledge. We can all do that. You don't have to be some kind of information security rock star, social media mogul, influencer, whatever. You know things that other people can learn from. How do you get engaged in this? I'm sure you have a high school, a primary school, something near you that might have a computer class of some kind. Maybe there's a Cyber Patriot Club. If you're unfamiliar with Cyber Patriot Club, it is a club where students get to come around and learn information security, doing blue team type things, learning like how to set up a secure device or learn command line and that sort of thing. It's really fun to go to those and engage with students at that because you can learn things from them, I promise. Same thing with the computer class. Maybe there's a career fair and you can just go sit at a table for half an hour and have people come to you and ask you about your job. You can just tell people about what you do and how you got there. You can write a blog, even if it's one post, even if it's short. Share that knowledge on the internet. Peerlist is a great place to do it. It's an information security type of blog site that I found. That's where I put my stuff. If you're not into social media, maybe you spin up a server on the internet and you allow people to log into your server and pull your text files down. I'm sure that's viable as well. And then you're teaching people how to do file transfers and not just going to an internet site. So you're teaching people 2 times. Good on you. Or you're like, I don't want to write. My writing is bad. Make a video. You can just talk through what you're doing. Maybe you don't want to talk. You can just drag your mouse around and use the notepad and type in very simple notes and put some sweet like synthwave or dubstep over the top of your video. Kids love that. I watch those videos. You have people around you that you can engage with. Your bosses, your coworkers. Maybe you have junior staff that you can teach. The opportunities are there. You can take steps to teach and engage with people. Or maybe you give a talk. You know, you can do this. You can do a talk at a virtual con. You can do a talk at a live con. Maybe you live in an area with like hacker meetups and they just want somebody to talk for 10 minutes about literally anything. You can do that. But what if I suck? I'm sure there are some people who are like, no, but really, I actually suck. In the immortal words of Jake the dog, sucking at something is the first step to becoming sort of good at something. And man, is that true. I would not be where I am today if I didn't suck at something first. And no one in this industry would be where they are today if they didn't suck at something first. You have to practice how to be good at a thing, whether that's teaching, whether that's mentoring, whether that's encouraging people, you know. Practice makes perfect is what this boils down to, but I like Jake the dog's version more. He's adorable, and I think it's funny. That kind of draws my talk to an end. I'd love to engage with you guys, answer questions, hear suggestions, hear your stories about what you've done to really like encourage people. You know, I totally want this to be interactive as much as we can. And again, I thank you so much for sitting here listening to me talk. And if you have suggestions for me about like, hey, you could do that better, or this would have been really cool, please shoot me a message on Discord, Twitter, whatever. Like I said, sucking at something is how you get good at something. And I would love to get better at this.
Kellon, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you sharing your personal experiences. I know I can relate to a lot of those experiences myself. You know, one of the things that I drew out of your talk, Kellon, is that telling a story when you're presenting is very personal, right? It's something that comes from you, and it's what you're trying to communicate to other people, and it's only your story, and it's not anybody else's story. So, you know, that's an important message for everybody to hear, and it's also important, I think, and you did point this out, Kellon, that that story is something that's a narrative that's unique in your head, and you will have always a unique perspective. So great information, my friend, and appreciate you sharing that with us. So for everybody that's attending the talk, please continue the conversation with Kellon in the Track 1 talks. I do want to remind you about the CTF that is running. The CTF channel is there on Discord. I believe it's called Meta CTF. If you want to get involved in that, please go ahead and ask questions and see what you can do there. Seeing as we have a little bit of time here, does anybody else have any questions that they want to ask of Kellon related to his talk? And we'll just take a few minutes here. Feel free to ask them directly in the GoToWebinar question box or directly inside of Discord, because I'm watching both. So questions, anybody?
I think I saw one earlier from Steph that said, did you want to be a threat hunter at a large corporation?
So that's a good question. Kellon, what do you think?
Honestly, no. I had no intentions of moving to a large corporation at all or being a threat hunter. I actually went after the pen testing with Kali stuff and OSCP because I wanted to be a breaker of things, not a fixer of things. But it turns out that you can translate those skills to one another, and being on the defensive side is actually a lot of fun. I think that's probably where I was headed subconsciously without knowing it, honestly, with the way my brain works and like my interest in how computers work and how computers should work. What is the optimal configuration for a computer to be secure?
Sure.
I found that super interesting, and for some reason it translates better to blue than it did to red, because I was like, oh, if I break the thing, somebody will want to fix it. But I feel a little bit more empowered to be saying like, oh, here's how this is being taken advantage of, and here's how we fix it in a live environment. So that's kind of cool.
So I have a question for you, or maybe just a comment. We'll take this as it comes. But Kellon, it seems to me, and I'm a red teamer and a penetration tester for my day-to-day existence, but it seems to me in the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years that we've seen tremendous advances in terms of the different tools that we have available for defenders to be able to study and analyze threat actor behaviors and indicators of compromise and environmental analytics and things that can give the blue team so much more data and so much more evidence in a kind of boiled up fashion that we really haven't had. And, some product examples of that, on the classics would be Microsoft, the threat analytics platforms and some of these other user behavior analytics platforms. And I'm getting a sense that, things are getting better for the blue side. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share.
Yeah, coming out of the university space and kind of the tools we had there and just thinking about, how we were looking at data and how I wanted to be looking at data, it was migrating more towards behavioral type things because that was the way to find bad, I think. And I think people are starting to realize that it's not just somebody pops who am I into a command prompt, but it's the context around that who am I or that IP config. That's a very simple example, but looking at the context around those events to look at the behavior pieces. Because I spent time in Bro digging through Splunk logs, looking for the bad IP address that was hot that day. And that wasn't always necessarily the best thing to be doing. Does that kind of answer that question?
Yeah, I think it does. I'm actually somewhat encouraged. When I first started to look at some of the tools available in the information security industry from a defender perspective, this is many, many years ago now, and all anybody really could say was make sure that you're logging things centrally and make sure that you have a good sense of your assets, and sort of syslog was the best thing you had, and things like Splunk were starting to emerge. But, it was tough because a lot of defenders were really overwhelmed by the volume of information they were having to sort through. And there wasn't a lot of good work happening in the artificial intelligence and machine learning space to try to do some volume analysis and give you a better sense of what was going on. And I'm feeling more optimistic today because of some of the advances. I know it's not perfect. It still takes a really knowledgeable human to interpret that data and to properly tune those systems. But it feels like it's more of an even playing field today than it used to be if you do the right things in terms of acquiring various technology and personnel to implement your defenses in appropriate ways.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. It is becoming a bit more simple. I think that there are technologies coming out that help you understand your environment rather than just being stuck staring at logs all day trying to make sense of your environment and what the normal is. I think defense is getting some cool new tools that will be really helpful.